Right, g'day, everyone. Jim, or GGG, depending on where you are in the world. We are joined today by crypto OG and crypto legend, JohnCarl. John, how are you today, my man?
GM, man, it's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me on to chat. Anytime I can chat to Craig is always a good day, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to get. I've been thinking about it lately, and just with me streaming more and stuff like that, I've been wanting to get people on the stream who perhaps weren't. What's the word I can use? Don't have something happening right now, because it's been talking to people on abstract and things like that who,
Yeah,
release
yeah.
games and etc. And then I was like, man, I want to start connecting with people that have been in the space a while and perhaps have something to say other than just a pure show of their project. If that, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
conversations are a little more fun when you don't feel like you have to chat about what they
one,
have going on.
yeah,
You their launch. Yeah, because I've watched a few episodes. I know exactly what you're talking about because there's some people that they're wanting to get in and they're chat about what they're up to, which is good. It's important, and it's good to see so many builders still doing shit. But there's a lot of builders are going to build regardless. It's fun to just connect and talk about what's been going on in the space. And I mean, man, I've been seeing all the feed lately is about these people posting about their mint of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Like this 4-year anniversary is like, man, dude, it's like we're graduating NFT high school right now. Yeah, we've been in the trenches now for over 4 years in the NFT trenches, and
I
the
saw those posts going up. Was it yesterday? It might have been.
yeah, a lot this last week. I don't know what exact day was the
Yeah.
anniversary, but I still am seeing them on my timeline as people are catching up. They're like, "Oh shit, it's anniversary!" So then everyone's got to do their engagement farming posts about minting their bored apes.
Still being a loyal ape, still being a loyal. Like, sometimes I think those posts might be a little bit to make the person feel better who's still holding. No
Yeah,
shame, no shame if you held from the top, by the way. But I
Right.
sometimes those posts to me feel a little bit like they want a bit of comfort, eh? Like saying it's all right, bro. You didn't do the wrong thing. Like, you held on. It's the best club in the world, and I'm sure it is. I don't know. I haven't got an ape, but
Yeah. No, this it is pretty crazy the amount of when you look back at it, because I know you were in the space trading coins too prior to NFTs.
yeah,
And we were chatting about it on the Grail chat with Figgy, but it's so true. Like the amount of coin, like I think you were the one talking about how we went from like a couple thousand coins to millions of
yeah,
coins in just a few years, and just like the ease of creating things. And it's the same with NFTs, like when Bored Apes minted, the minting process of NFTs was a lot more difficult than it is today. I mean, there is still some technical stuff, but there's just going to be more and more platforms that make it easy, like Manifold, to just
mhm,
like get on and click and you can mint whatever you want. And it's cool to see the innovation, but then you also have the saturation that comes. And the thing that I always wanted to chat with you about is just like how maintaining like focus on the attention economy, because this is something it's so easy for me to get really dive deep into certain things, and then to like stay focused in on a certain area. I'm not as good with this like multi-universe that we're living in now, where there's like the amount of chains that you have to keep up with is becoming overwhelming.
it is. Do you mean when you ask that question? Do you mean as say a founder slash builder, or do you mean someone who's just an investor in
No,
this?
yeah, like a trader, like
Okay,
you do a
like
great
me
job
also.
jumping trains, like trading different
Yeah,
things. And I just was curious if it's mainly just from your network of like trying to keep your ear to the road, basically like
yeah,
trying to figure out what's launching, what's going on, what's going to be big. Like, what's the biggest like tips, like
yeah.
for knowing like what's good to like go after, or what are like some of the trends that you see?
Yeah, I mean, to answer the first part of that question, it is overwhelming, and it can be overwhelming, and it is overwhelming, and it's kind of one of those things. I guess each person can attack it differently because each person will have a different attention span, energy.
Yeah.
Someone like me, it's a little bit easier for, I suppose, in the way I have time. Um, what I mean by that is, if it's not obvious, is I work in this full time, so I kind of have to,
Yeah.
because if I don't, I'm going to fall behind, and if I fall behind, I'm not going to be of value to the space, and I guess I've put myself in a position where I need to be of value to continue existing here in some way, other than my trading. I mean, but I mean, I don't have to rely on that, but it all helps. But the the thing is, yeah, I've seen a lot of people struggle with it and fall off and crash out, if that's the word you can use. And it does get hard. I've gone through phases where I've had to step away, for a day or two and just kind of clear my head. To kind of, because you get emotional, don't you? As well, the thing is,
100%.
it's
Yeah.
not just keeping your ear to the ground. It's then, say I'm presenting the news and I'm like, look, this is what's coming up. Normally I'm also involved in minting those things and trying to flip them, or trying to buy that coin and flip it. So not only am I trying to be the news presenter, I'm also kind of the person that the news presenter is talking about in the trenches.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is, I guess if I was just talking about something, there's not much emotion. Like, e.g., if I just spoke about a chart today of a coin I'm not in, like, I can talk about the coin very easily, no emotion, right? Versus, say, a coin that I'm in that's down 90%, and then
Right.
you talk about it, and you're still trying to present facts about something, but in the back of your mind, you're also kind of hurting.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
I explained that very well, but I guess what I'm trying to say is,
Do you try to focus mainly on like when you're trading something on Solana, or you're looking through Solana stuff, are you like primarily focused in the trenches there, and then you'll like jump over and you'll like, if you feel like abstract's getting hot, you'll like take a look over there and see if anything's worth trading? Because one thing that I do believe in, like Ape Chain is a good example. Ape Chain, there are things that pop off, but if you're like, there's just so many, like you could have a full time, if you wanted to just dedicate to maybe 2 chains,
yeah, man.
you could be full time just focused on that. So like, do you just have a go-to like favorite places to kind of land, or do you feel like you're jumping all over the place constantly?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I get asked that a lot. I mean, one of the most common DMs I'll get is, "Hey, man, where do you get your alpha?"
Yeah.
And I think people think there's a central source,
Yeah.
and I think people think sometimes people like me, and higher ups, because I'm definitely not upper echelon. There's definitely layers above me, and I don't get all the info, that's for sure, or I'll get it much later. Um, but is definitely not a central source, as much as people would like to believe there's this well that we go to and we get given this information as influencers, whatever we want to be called, and then we go and give out the good news like Moses from Jesus and all that. But
Yeah.
it's not like that. What it actually is like is waking up, and in front of me I have 1,000 newspapers from all over the world, and I quickly flick through all the newspapers and find the articles or the news stories in there I think people will be interested in, b, are true, and c, they can probably make some money in. So it's more a case of, so example of newspapers would be group chats. So,
Yeah,
you know
that's what I was about to ask. Is I feel like I really feel like it's networking. It's
yeah,
all it's
it's
like where those private, a lot of that alpha, a lot of the quote unquote alpha is
yeah,
like the relationships with the people you've built that
very
have,
much.
and they know there's some people that when they give a coin, you're going to give more weight into looking into that coin versus if someone else you see says to take a look at something, just because
Exactly.
the trajectory and like people's history and how well they like this is context becomes a really big thing in crypto, right? Because like when you're in the space for years, you've seen people's trajectory of when they hit, when they don't hit, if they like
Morals as
I would
well,
hit a
isn't it?
lot of stuff in like 2021, 2022, and then like I'd have a phase where I didn't have like the right network of people that I
Oh,
was in touch with, right?
100%
And
same here.
then all of a sudden you feel like you're dry and you're like, where am I? Like, where's this? like, where am I getting some good source of information? And then you're like back to the drawing board, like, okay, I need
Yeah.
to, like, I'm just going to have to dive in and do like independent research and try to figure out. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that's what I feel too. Like a lot of times your like the best source of information comes from like the relationships you've built, but then also like when you start researching things on the feed, you start to get, like you said, like it, there's people on the feed that kind of, you know, push the needle for things more. So as soon as you see someone posting, you kind of can get an idea of where in the lifespan a project is too,
Yeah.
right? Because like you're like when I'm seeing everyone posting videos about house coin now, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, where in the cycle are we? So
Yeah.
then you have to kind of have an idea of like how much longer a lifespan has.
Mm,
Because and that's where it becomes really difficult
mm,
to be successful in the crypto economy, because unlike equities, like you in equities you can go back to like the traditional like balance sheet and like the core
mhm,
business, right? Like you can figure out like, okay, these numbers make sense, like this company is building this, like they have this much revenue. When you're talking about meme coins, you're literally just talking about attention and like the other big thing that I feel like people look like forget
mm,
is the holder base is like one of the most important things, is because you know when you looking at those top 20 to 50 holders, if if this is like their only big coin and they've never hit anything, like they
yeah.
are going to dump on your ass at some point because they want profit.
Yeah.
Unlike someone who has made plenty of bags and then like you can trust isn't gonna like go and
New
dump everything
chart.
on you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, and that's another good tip is, the longer you stay in the space, the more or the better understanding you'll have of who says what when,
Yep.
which is what you were saying, and you know who tends to speak first, who tends to speak in the middle, and who kind of gets the last information, for lack of a better way to explain it. So yeah, that's a really good comment or good point, and that only comes from time in the seat, doesn't it? You can't, like, it's not like I can. I mean, I suppose I can release a list and say, hey, these are the traders that if you see a call from them, I'd jump
Yeah.
in pretty quickly. The only problem with me releasing a list like that is the list could change in a week.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Yeah, just like we were saying, someone that could be really hot for months could all of a sudden
just
get
go
dry if
cold.
they're, yeah.
And I've seen
It's
it a
like,
million times, and I've had it with me, and you said it before, where you're dialed in, you're locked in. Because the thing is, the meta's changed. That's
yeah,
why your
yeah,
information flow changes. Because in my group chats, I've got I've got group chats from NFTs from 21. I've got group chats from NFT artists from 21 till now. When the open edition season came in pretty hot and heavy, so I've got loads of artist GCs group chats. But if you think about it, you see those artist group chats. I don't want to say word this wrong, but I'm going to sound pretty. Like, they only have value for a flipper when the meta's hot. If you're not a
yeah,
collector, right? So those
yeah,
group chats become null and void during a time when meme coins are pumping, because
yeah,
those
yeah,
artists aren't necessarily tapped in with that ecosystem. Some are,
yeah,
but most aren't. And then vice versa, when the NFT season kicks off, then the meme coin trench group chats tend to be of less value, if that makes sense.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
so
and honestly, I think that was one of my biggest mistakes back in 2020, like two, especially like right when WIF took off. You know, that was really what like the like if you had to go back to any moment where you're like, holy shit, that's where Solana was like, okay, Solana's gonna make it, was when it was like the trench, the meme coin trenches opened up, because it's just like perfect for like retail meme coins with how like fast it is and the low latent, and then like low fees, and there wasn't a shit ton of meme coins trading on ETH. So if you weren't tapped in to Solana, like you were gonna miss, and that's something I totally missed. I was about 6 months late, and by then, you know, it was difficult finding like an edge, because and without knowing the other people that were in the trenches at the beginning.
mm,
Um, yeah, it is. I completely agree. I think that's I think that is a very interesting like thing about the crypto industry, especially if you're an active trader, is how frequently you're having to actually evolve and shift.
Yeah,
Like you're thinking and that's kind of difficult for me at times because I really got into the space because I believe in like the underlying tech and I love the tech. But at the end of the
yeah,
day, it trade like the attention economy is the attention economy. You can't like if you try to swim against it and
you
you're like,
can't fight
okay,
it.
yeah, like for the longest time, I'm a huge 10K TF believer. So I was like, oh, these prices are free like for
Too
a
cheap, yeah.
year. And they just kept getting more and more free until they're just zero. And
It's
it's like,
true.
well, fuck. Like, like
Yeah,
if I can't ever get anything back out, like that, if there's no liquidity, like that becomes a huge problem. And so,
mm,
yeah, and I tell my wife all the time, like, these bags that I have of NFTs, like in 2 years, they may be worth a fuck ton again. Like, there's just no way of knowing when that attention could evolve. You really,
mm,
when it comes to betting on something that you really just want to like buy and hold, and that's good for some people too, because maybe they have a day job, they're not interested in
yeah,
necessarily flipping in and out. And for those people, like they just really need to find good builders, like people you can trust aren't going to leave, people that are here for the right reasons. And that can in itself can be a tricky thing to find, right? Like finding good builders is hard enough in itself. So if you
really
find good builders, you can just like kind of try to hope like back on that, like bet on builders, keep in those circles, and like and that helps people from getting burnt out. Like I know so many Carls that are like, if it weren't for the Carls, I probably wouldn't be in the space anymore because they just get burnt out. Like Carl, like the CCC Discord talks about all kinds of stuff. We talk about equities. You talk about crypto trades, NFTs. Like nothing's off limits. Everyone's just kind of chatting, hanging out, and that's good. Like that's where you need to find your home because people. Then you'll find other good people. Like it's really all about building that network, right? Like,
yeah,
but at the same time, there may be like for you or I like that are more active. We're constantly like switching, evolving our methodologies. Like you've got to constantly like try to find those people. And it does feel like if you can find where smart money is, you do get an edge because like where things will go. Like when I was doing like when I was trading NFTs more, I felt like I had a lot better edge because I was kind of in the circle of
yeah,
builders. So I was seeing things that I felt like I just got a glimpse, and I was like, oh shit, like we're gonna head in this direction now.
mm,
Like the mutant hounds are gonna get big now, and then it's like, oh okay, like now I see like this other project that these people are talking about. And it's like you kind of but if you because of how quickly the space changes, those people that had knowledge or intel or kind of like not even intel, like just interest, right? Like that was their interest. Like if you can miss out on a whole nother phase of the crypto ecosystem because you just were like in the wrong place. Like this because you were in
mhm,
the space prior to
mm,
2020, but like you had the DeFi before NFTs took off. Like people were making all kinds of money from yields back in like 2019, 2020 because of like all these protocols that were giving 300% APR on your these coins that yielded. But then if you really believed in those coins, you ended up losing money because your yield doesn't matter when the price drops to zero anyways. So it is so interesting, like these metas like come and they're like last for a while and then like they like switch and evolve to something else. And part of my dilemma, like moral dilemma with the space is like I want to see like the like changing of the guards to where like these builders actually take off and like you had Facebook back in the early days, they weren't profitable for 5 to 10 years, and then all of a sudden it was like because they just kept evolving their business, eventually something stuck and they were able to start to make it. I feel like the same
mm,
thing is happening right now in the NFT space, and you kind of get a glimpse of that with so many NFTs now launching their like coins in their ecosystems, like Pudgy Penguins and Abstract. Then you got like so many builders on in Yuga, like Yuga holders that are builders that just like believe in
mm,
it.
mm.
And then you've got, even like Farouk with Rug Radio and what they're going to do with prediction markets. And it's like all these arms that like are building different types of things. And it makes it, I'm very curious to see how the next couple of years play out, to see if they can kind of grab back some of that attention because of like actual product, because it is a dilemma and a problem if like real innovation does happen and people are so like stuck at the blackjack table like losing money that they don't even like see it. And I feel like that's where we've kind of got to this point where people get burnt out
Mm,
because they just get so tired of losing, and it's heartbreaking because I've seen it in
mm,
just the CCC alone, like people that like end up in the meme coin casino, they just like get like it happened to me like late last year too. Like I was like I almost liquidated myself. I was like
mm,
like getting to that point where you just like are chopping yourself to death, and then
mhm,
to miss like when all this big money comes in this next couple years and just blows everything up, and just like it's so demoralizing to feel like you get sidelined after you like believed and you like. So there's like this thing of like, okay, depending on where you're at, like figuring out what type of person you are, right? Like
yeah.
for a long time, I was like, why can't, like, I would, even just like with personal relationships, like you have an interest in this, I have an interest in finance, in like we look at yield, we look at like market caps, we look at liquidity, we look at all these things because that matters when you're trading. And some people don't give it, like they don't like you talk about like liquidity, for example, like they like it goes over their head, like
Mhm, mhm,
but it's $100 million market cap. But yeah, but there's $1 million of liquidity, bro.
yeah.
So it's like this thing that looks hot, like can die at any moment when everyone decides to exit the doors. So if that's not someone's interest and they really do like, for a long time I kind of faulted people that weren't more actively trading or like, but it's like, I actually give a lot of props to like Yuga collectors or like Bored Apes, because some of those people have just really been dedicated to that club and they've just built alongside their friends and are doing things on Ape Chain. And they're probably happier than some traders are, because some traders that get chopped all over, like
Mm,
it becomes so difficult. And yeah, man, I just think it's it's one of those things where we're lucky to be in the position we are because there's so many opportunities, but at the same time, you have to like be super careful when you're a trader because it's so easy to like get chopped down.
mm, mm,
And that's something I feel like you do a good job at, that I need to do better at, even is when you get those wins, like like putting them back into those long-term core assets, and building up those long-term core assets,
mhm.
and like almost as your like sacred grail, and not allowing yourself to get that big win and like, and then be like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna like, this is like, if I do this again, I'm set. And then you just like fuck yourself because you get greedy, which
Yeah,
happens to the best of us.
yeah, that's right. I think one of the main things is remembering why you're there, what your goal is. So what I mean by that is when I came into the space, I was like, right, I like the look of Bitcoin. I like what it stands for. It looks like it might be a vehicle towards financial freedom. What I mean by that is decentralized without a government entity or control over it, e.g., using the war machine to give the US dollar value ultimately, or the petrodollar.
Yeah.
Um, One, because I didn't like the way the world was heading. So I guess I'm rebellious in a way. So the main reason I came to the space was to make a stand or a point.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I never thought I'd contribute to it. That wasn't really why I guess I came to be a silent contributor, not be speaking. Um, and what the main thing for me was I saw crypto as about the only opportunity I had that could provide real freedom to my family.
Hmm.
And then what I mean by that is through Bitcoin. So I knew that was the main thing I needed to get, the main thing I had to like get my hands on. So I guess it's kind of like saying I knew that was the gold. and there would be other shiny things along the path I walk along. There'll be, a little bit of silver over there and a bit of bronze down there. But what I need to do is just remember that the main big goal is down there, and that's the gold. And don't let these little things along the way distract you from what your main thing is. Yes, collect them along the way if you can, without trying to lose what's already in your bag. That's the thing, because those shiny things along the way can actually make it so by the time you get to your destination, you're broke. And that's kind of what you were saying. You just get rinsed and rinsed until you actually can't stay in the space. You've got nothing left to invest. So I guess what I did well, not the first cycle I didn't. So my first cycle was 21. I got in full-time Feb 21. So that was when the bull was kind of in full swing almost. It sort of peaked in May 21, dipped, and then didn't come up again, I think, until October that year. So it was an interesting start for me. But one thing I did in the second bull run, which is going on now, was I told myself I just needed to collect sats, Bitcoin. That was the main goal, fill up my Bitcoin bag. And what I did was I kept a separate wallet or bag for Bitcoin. And every time I took profit, I converted that profit either into stable coins or a certain percentage back into Bitcoin, depending on what the price of Bitcoin was at that time. So I wouldn't automatically just swap it for Bitcoin. Unless Bitcoin I thought was at a good buying point, then I would. Otherwise, I'd swap to stables, wait for a Bitcoin pullback, and then put that profit into stables. And what that effectively did over the last 2 years was, and this is where it got really cool, especially with meme coins and ordinals. Ordinals were amazing for me, man, because they allowed me to sell directly into the coin or the chain that I wanted most. So it made it really easy.
Makes sense.
One of the pitfalls of Solana is people sometimes, I think, forget that, the big daddy's still Bitcoin. So what they'll do is they'll hit big on a meme coin, keep it in Solana, and then Solana has an 80% pullback, right?
Yeah.
And then you fucking lose 80. Like we just had, Solana went from 250 to 100. So instantly your profit's down. You're down 70% on your profit. That sucks, right? So what I did, I guess, really effectively this cycle was I converted to stables and then went into Bitcoin or into Solana on dips. But what that did was it allowed me to double dip. So say I hit a 2x on a meme coin, and I was a coward at that point or whatever, and I pulled out my money, which I always do because I'm a coward because I've got to stay alive in this space. And then I put it into Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin 2x's. Now it's a 4x, but it's a really cruisy 4x. Whereas if I'd left it in the shitcoin, the chances are of it going from a 2x to 4x drop dramatically. But the chance from Bitcoin going from what it is to doubling over time is almost certain, if your time frame is long enough, right? Solana or any altcoin, there's no guarantee, I don't think, over time they're going up. As we've seen, unfortunately, with Ethereum this cycle versus last, it's lagged a lot. And I remember that happening last cycle where Chainlink and Litecoin lagged. So you've got to be careful not to put your profit into things that can die. It's disheartening, and it can also rinse you really quickly. So I guess what I did, like I said, really well was I converted into stables, waited for opportunities to go into Sol or Bitcoin, mainly Bitcoin, and then that's where I would swing trade Bitcoin for 50%. But that was enough because I already had a 2, 3, 4, 5x on the money I put in, if that makes sense. And what I did as well was I told myself when I put profit into Bitcoin, the idea is to never lose that profit. So what I mean by that is, even if Bitcoin only pumped 20% and it looked like it was going to pull back and I thought, shit, this may not come back for months, I then go, right, that was my profit bag. I sold it and just was satisfied with that 20% increase. Rather, I just refuse to let my profit get eaten, I guess.
Yeah. It's really important. And that's one of the hardest things about active trading is pulling out when things are getting frothy, and then also being able to be okay taking small gains when you're not 100% sure of the trajectory, if things are gonna start to take off. Another thing I was curious about, well, before I ask this, what percent of your crypto portfolio is in Bitcoin? Like, let's out of all your active trading versus like your just long-term holding position. What would you say?
Sorry, did you mean how big's my Bitcoin bag in comparison
Like
with
as a
the rest of it
percentage?
in total?
Yeah,
Uh,
like in percentage of your like entire crypto
oh,
holdings. Like is it like
yeah,
80%?
probably. Ooh, I reckon it's no. If stable coins aren't included, 90%.
Okay. But then
If
you have a lot stable too. That's smart.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, because then that's really that's another thing that I struggled with last cycle that I've tried
same.
to do better of is yeah, just holding I mean, one thing is you don't want to necessarily take something off chain. And so it can be tempting when you see all that fresh liquidity just sitting in your wallet, right? Like it's just staring at you like double me,
Yeah,
like what are you doing? Like put me to work. But sometimes it's like
yeah,
it's so dangerous when you're just like forced trades. Like my thing I've been trying to really do is like try to set a longer trajectory, like
yeah.
finding a coin that I believe long term. I can give an example because this is a position I'm in
Mhm,
right now. So this is definitely bag bias right now. But for this is an example for me is like uh, like Meme Land helped with the launch of Pain, like the
yep,
Herald
yep.
meme coin. So it started off. It was what 200 million market cap, and it over this last like couple months, it got down to like 6 million, um,
Whoa.
like 6-7 million market cap. So I look at it, and one of the cool things about the way they structured it was always the liquidity. Like this shit has, I want to say, 50% is locked in his wallet for 20 years. So really, um, you're only looking at 50% of the supply actually circulating. But then out of that, they actually are only there's only like 25 to 30% that's actually actively circulating because there's so much in the liquidity
Mhm,
pool and there's so much that the team still holds. So you're looking at such a very small amount. And then on top of that, the market there's only 10 million coins. So you're
mhm,
looking at maybe like 2 million coins trading around.
mhm,
So
mhm.
all of this is like, okay, this all looks good. The other thing that I saw about this coin that I really liked is that the way they did the structure, and I'm sure you're a little familiar with
Mhm.
this, but how they refunded so much of
Yeah,
the people's funds.
it's quite smart,
So
eh?
it's very smart,
There was
but
so much
also
liquidity sidelined then.
yeah,
Yeah,
they had liquidity sideline, but also the reason I like it is because the people that have the biggest holdings are actually very, very wealthy. It's like Dingaling, it's
yeah,
like the General, it's like these
yeah,
people that just have fucking massive bags in the
and they can afford to hold. Yeah,
Yes, exactly. So a lot of the top 20 holders in this pain token are like big whales of the like meme land ecosystem, and they're diehard believers. Like that's another thing you really got to
mhm,
find in meme coins is like people that really believe in the long term, that love like the ecosystem, not just like the pump, but they're like gonna like wait it out because they know something is coming. And then on top of that, you also have you have a major like in order to have any sort of decent sized bag you had to be a whale,
mhm,
like putting in thousands of Solana during the pre-sale, and then on top of that you have the meme land that is starting this new Hong Kong stock meme strategy that
mhm.
they took over, and it's like their whole thing is like they're going to become like the micro strategy of meme coins, and me like they're in bed with Pain Coin already, so like it's almost in my mind a pretty good guarantee that they're at some point going to be buying this coin, and any sort of buying pressure is going to do wonders to it because right now, like in the last couple of weeks, it's like daily volumes, like always less than $500,000. So
Mhm.
let's say like this thing ever gets back up to $5-10 million, like act like daily volume, like the price is just going to rocket because there's just limited coins in circulation. So like all these things, like as an active trader, like I look through, I'm like, okay, am I going to chase? Like I can chase like these pumps that have like very little liquidity. And the other thing, because the liquidity was so high at the beginning, when it got down to 7 million, the liquidity on this coin was like 5.5 million. Like the liquidity is ridiculous. Like it's like over, it's like 5 to 6x what you would normally see.
Yeah.
Like it's like on, if something was launched on Pup Fun, it would have to have like a $70 million market cap to have the same liquidity that this coin has at a $7 million market cap. So like these are the things that I look at. I'm like, oh, okay, like I this is not in the spotlight. Like no one's paying attention to it, but like it has all the variables that if I sit, I can hold this. It might go down 20-30%, but in my mind, at some point, like the chance of it going from 6 million to 3 million seems fairly low. And even then, you only lost 50%. So I think one thing that you said that I really think a lot about is opportunity cost, right? Like what are the chances if you take this bet, what are the chances if you had it in something else that it would do even better? And I'm constantly like evaluating that when I'm trying to figure out if something's worth like putting a position in, because some of these, like trying to chase metas for me got really unprofitable because
Mm.
I was always like I was a few, like I was just a little too late every
Yeah.
time to make like decent money. And then like by the time you hear it all the time from traders, like oh, like they'll get in and then it, like they double it overnight and then they get pumped and then they lose it the next day
Yeah.
because you're like getting in that frothy part of the cycle, and it's like there's these big massive moves, but then like all of a sudden in a week you're like back under your initial buy-in and you're like, what the fuck just happened? And I feel like that's like a very common story. So it's like you've got to find things that you either have to be really good at getting in and out for small profits, or you got to just find things that you can like buy into the narrative and see, like you can see the potential of something long. Like when I say a long term, I'm not even talking years, I'm talking months.
Months. Yeah. Yeah. Or weeks
Months.
even.
Yeah, so that's something you can really believe and hold on to. And you and I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned the last couple of years is just like you got to constantly be not afraid to pull out small profits,
Yeah.
and you also have to not be afraid to take losses. Like you have to be afraid if you think something is not going well. Too many people get too attached when they're in the red that they never sell and they just go let it go all the way to zero because they're like, well, fuck, like I may as well see if this comes back, and then it never does. Like never be afraid to take a like if you're not 100% certain something's coming back, like don't be afraid to take your 50% loss, because then at least you have liquidity to get into a different position,
Yeah.
you know. And that's something I struggled with a lot when I first started trading, that I feel like is one of the only reasons I'm able to survive now is because when I'm in a bad position, like I'll cut my losses and get out of it even though it's painful.
Yeah. Yeah. Cutting losses is hard, and I think one of the mistakes a lot of traders make is, and I speak about this a fair bit, is people will have a strategy for if price goes up, but not if it goes down. So I remember, when I first started, first bull run, I'd sit there, I had a spreadsheet out. I was like, right, what am I take profits on all these coins? And one of the other mistakes I made when I first came into the space was I had about 30 to 40 altcoins going at any one time. So that was 30 or 40 charts I watched daily. And being a new person in the space, I was enthusiastic and I thought, that was what you did and things like that. But what I found over time is it didn't allow me to concentrate on any of them properly. So instead of, say, having five and hyper dialing in on them, getting to know the chart and almost understanding the language of that coin, and people that trade a lot will understand what I mean in that each coin has a certain, it's almost like they have different languages and they speak to you in a different way. And that sounds real quackpot, but the more you look at charts, is Bitcoin for one. I've been quite successful trading at this bull run, and the main reason I've been successfully trading it is because I've got a good feel for it. There's TA which I use, and then there's something else, and that's something else I couldn't even explain to you what it is. It's intuition. It's gut.
Yeah, yeah,
Which sounds, it's actually, it's not as vague as that or spiritual as that. It's more like TA ties in with it.
yeah,
Um,
100%.
but certainly the longer you look at charts, they all behave subtly differently. And I mean like Solana versus Bitcoin, they just aren't the same. And as you trade longer and longer, you get better or luck. I guess lucky and lucky is the word you could use. And I completely forgot what I was even going to go on about then because I've
Well,
rambled.
one thing I am curious about, when did you start getting into Fibonacci? When did you start using Fibonacci for trading? Because I
Yeah,
know, I mean, I think the best thing about that is the fact that a lot of other traders use it, so it kind of gives you an
yeah,
idea. Like if at the end of the day,
yeah.
it's almost like it's almost like you're
Chicken and the egg, eh?
you're making the own destiny because you're like everyone's
Yeah,
just following the same path and like creating the similar resistances because they're all using the same like
that's exactly
TA.
right.
But yeah, what I was curious when you
When did I
started to get
start?
into.
So it's weird. I started using TA on NFTs in 22. I didn't know TA very well, but I was using it on NFTs. And what I found, which is a really bad place to start using TA, because if you want to get a good understanding of TA, you probably don't want volatile assets like NFTs, let alone shitcoins, because they don't always behave as
Yeah,
they
that's
should.
the other thing I was going to ask you is how accurate things. You feel like TA works a lot better on something that has tremendous liquidity like Bitcoin than it and a lot of traders, or has it do enough
Yeah.
like meme coiners have they got into it that you feel like the like Fibonacci's are respected in like meme coin ecosystems much? Or yeah, I
Yeah.
was curious.
So so Bitcoin behaves cleaner than
Yeah,
anything else. And then if you spoke to someone in TradFi, they'd say they don't trade.
yeah,
I've got a friend who won't trade Bitcoin because he thinks it trades messy, and he trades
yeah,
currencies. So because it moves so clean, it's got to open and close and things like that. So people that are very anal about numbers and clean setups on charts typically will actually end up moving away from crypto because
yeah,
of traditional finance. But it adheres to the algorithm a lot better than crypto
yeah,
does. But to answer your question, Bitcoin still adheres to it fairly well. And I find that meme coins do as well, but they do in a much more accelerated pace.
yeah,
So what you get is probably in a day's chart on a meme coin is probably the same as 4 to 8 years in Bitcoin,
yeah,
or one bull run cycle for Bitcoin. So a
yeah.
meme coin chart for a day is the same as Bitcoin for a bull run. So it's one. Oh, so yeah, it's 1 day versus 3-4 years. So do I find it adheres to it? Yes, I actually mostly find it does, and I guess you spoke about the reasons why. One being because if there's people like me thinking it does, it probably will if enough of us think of it. The
Yeah.
other thing I found is because obviously, Fibonacci, is really, I guess, a study of human psychology in a way.
Yeah,
Because,
100%, which is why why
which
it
is
works
why it
even better.
works. Because I think one of the interesting things that I figured out, or I kind of, well, I don't know if I figured it out, if it's even true, but human beings are much more similar than we like to admit. And we all think we're different. And don't get me wrong, I can go the spiritual side on this and argue with myself, but I'm going to give the what's the word, the trader's perspective. We're just in trading, we're all very much the same, and although we all think we're different and special and unique, emotionally with money we're really not.
Yeah,
And whether someone is a Democrat or a Republican, black, white, Chinese, Mandarin, doesn't matter. Most of us respond the same to money or stress. In times of stress or euphoria, autopilot kicks in. And
yeah,
it doesn't matter
yeah,
what flag you fly, if you're vaxxed or not, in times of stress, human beings react pretty much the same. And that goes back to fight or flight. So, as human beings, we've evolved the same to deal with stress. So, in times of stress or euphoria, e.g., trading, we go into autopilot very often, and that's where traders have an edge because a new person coming to the space doesn't even understand that we can predict their behavior quite accurately, actually. Like, there's charts, you would have seen it with Fibonacci's and Fibs, where it's fucking accurate, man. Like, I mean, $2. In fact, sometimes I'll tell you what's interesting. Even though I just said we aren't all special and we're not all unique, the thing I find interesting is I like numbers, I like math, or maybe I don't like it but understand it maybe better than some. And the more, and I've heard scientists say this, the more I study numbers and the more I study Fibonacci's, the more I kind of start to believe in a God, because it's, some things are just too perfect. And I don't know, I mean, people are probably listening to this thinking you're off your fucking head, Craig, but that's what, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic trading, because I kind of have a split personality where I believe we all are so different and we all are so unique. And then another way with trading, we're actually all the same. It's quite funny. But yeah, it's a long-winded way to answer your question would be, yes, I think Fibonacci works. And I would say to you, even if it doesn't work sometimes, why wouldn't you use a tool that works even half the time versus not at all? Because if you don't use it at all, what are you using other than guessing? Like, okay, you could be using inside information, which is actually probably the most effective kind of information. But if you don't have insider information and you're not using Fibonacci or Fib levels, you're then, I'm going to guess, running off emotion. I can't think of what else you'll be using. You'll either be running off your own emotion or other people's. And that's what I found with not using Fibs, was I was then very susceptible to people getting in my ear. And my emotions could be affected. Say I'm bullish on a coin, but I jump in a Telegram. By the way, never jump in a coin's Telegram, man. Jesus, like, you're going to get told to either buy more or sell, right? So my tip to people is don't go in there. It's too messy. It's too chaotic. Leave that stuff to the
it gets confused. It especially if you're an active trader.
I used to do it.
You never want to get, never get, and then you'll get pulled into one, especially if you try to talk, and then like you feel like you don't want to get emotionally attached to your trades
and
either.
You do, bro. And I have done, and I just can't go into them anymore because, you know, if I go in there, people are like, you know, Craig's here, and then I fucking can never sell, man, because I feel bad because I feel like I let everyone down, which is one of the reasons I won't like do what Frank did and share my wallet, dude, because A, I'll wreck people, and B, I think it's just I think then you start using people in not the right way, especially if you go into a coin that's say 50K, like, you know, if you share, and I don't have swing like Frank, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying if I do it will even work. I just mean that's one of the other reasons I don't do it. A, because people can get hurt, and B, I just don't want the stress. And I found in the past that people knowing what you have, you just can never fucking sell it, man. Because you feel like anyone, your friends getting in after you, you then go, oh man, I'm going to hurt that dude I like, so I don't sell. But then I end up hurting myself. And the other thing I found was the only problem with having this thought process in this space is I can tell you now 8 out of 10 don't. So being the good guy in this space financially is not great. And I don't mean you should rug people. What I'm saying is the friend you're protecting probably won't protect you back. Unfortunately, and I hate saying that, man, but I've just seen it too many times with money. I mean,
well, yeah, it's too, and neither, you know, and the other thing too is you start realizing they shouldn't really, because you don't want them to go down with the ship either.
No,
so,
and that's the thing.
So that's the hard thing is you have to
holding, because I don't even blame them, and then I'm like, well, if I don't blame them, they can't blame me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which means I should sell. So I
think the thing that gets difficult is when you have a big, like when you have a position that is big enough to make some sort of impact on the chart, which is like, that's the only thing that I can think of. But then even then, like it's not like you dump in one shot. Like you're just like slowly.
But if you scale out, and people are like, oh, why are you scaling out? You're like, fuck, man, like I got to scale out. Like, I mean, one of the bigger losses I had in the space, it wasn't a huge amount of money, but it's just the fact that I couldn't make any, was, you know, I don't know if you remember, about a year or two ago, the CTOs were pretty popular.
Yeah.
And so one of them I CTO'd, well, I helped a friend of mine who was pretty big in Solana, Lex, he CTO Clippy. And I remember helping him CTO Clippy, and fuck, man, it was the most stressful time of my life.
Yeah.
And you probably felt the same with Baby Jesus. Shout out Baby Jesus. And by the way, I still hold that coin, man. That's an example of a coin I can't sell.
I tell everyone that's a coin that's going to be my legacy. One day I will just if I
I just
the
hold, bro.
if I ever get to a status where people actually care, like that baby Jesus be the one coin that I talk about, because it's like I own probably 25% of the supply
Fuck.
at this point.
Yeah.
And I can't do it.
Okay.
I'm not gonna do anything with
I
it
know
because
you won't, because you would have by now.
like because I can't. Yeah, but it is hard. Like as soon as you get emotionally invested, like and then you're like all the Carls are in baby Jesus. So now I really want it to do well. Like
I'm
then
the
it's like
same.
fuck. How do you get this thing in front of more people? So like now I have people that I know aren't gonna sell it, but yeah, like until I get people that are gonna start coming in and flipping and get the volume up, like it's just gonna just sit there doing nothing. And
And
that's the problem is the
yeah,
attention economy is the hardest fucking part. That was my lesson from that whole thing is
yeah,
like you'd have people talking about it for a week or 2 weeks, and then it's like, well, now they're
silence.
like, and then it gets silent, and you're like, it just kind of slowly dies, and it's
Guys.
like, fuck,
And
yeah,
that happens for just about every coin. And what I mean by that is even what I think are awesome coins, man. Like,
yeah,
I'll give you an example of one that I shilled the absolute shit out of, and I made a few people a lot of money, but myself just about none, was Lockheed Martin. Because
mm,
I mean, I know that might rub some people the wrong way. It's it talks about war and shit like that. But the reason I like that coin, because I'm actually fucking anti-war. So I thought one of the ways to kind of protest war is actually to show the absolute stupidity of glamorizing it. Like, how sexy are these war machines that are going to kill people? Like, I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I find this actually a protest. So, because I
mm,
had a couple of people actually get hold of me and go, Craig, I think it's in bad taste that you're supporting this coin. And I was like, shit, man. I mean, we're talking about meme coins here for one. Like, I don't think you should take it too personally. And it's Lockheed Martin. It's not like, there's other coins which could be let me put it this way. There are coins in bad taste, I think. Like,
yeah,
for instance, there was that Goner Gordon meme coin, which was kind of celebrating Gordon being sick.
mm.
Remember that?
I don't, but I
Oh,
know
yeah.
all like the N-word coins and
Yeah,
the
bro. I don't go near that stuff, bro.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but the Lockheed Martin one was more me. It was like a counter against war, right?
yeah,
But anyway, long story short, I thought the ticker was funny as fuck. I was, shilling pictures of jets flying around and sexy women and stuff. And bro, the chart just kept going down. Like, it was an amazing ticker, amazing coin. I mean, there's another one like Kekek or whatever, awesome on Ethereum, just ate shit, just kept going down. And so the reason why I tell you that is it sometimes just doesn't matter how good the coin is. People just rinse it and leave and go to the next one because it's easier to shell a hot coin. It's just so much
yeah,
easier than trying to revitalize a coin. I mean, look at Mog. Mog
yeah,
Mog pulled back 85%. Uh,
yeah,
now, what that tells me is, and numbers don't lie, bro. What that tells me is all the people, or a lot of the people on the timeline that were Mog, may not have been so strong Mog. To pull
yeah.
85%, bro, that tells me a lot of the people on the timeline who were super bullish were a bit flimsy on their conviction, right? Which is,
Yeah, when it goes back down to like the
I'm like,
basically
you
the
fucking
low
liars.
of over a year ago, it's like you would have had to be in the coin in the first like 2 months to be in the
Bro,
profit.
exactly right. If you're still in profit on that pullback, you had to be in the first few months. So straight away,
Yeah,
that told me there's a lot of tourists in the coin,
yeah,
which, don't get me wrong, is totally fine. But that's a lesson right there, because Mog, I think, is a strong, I mean, it's a cheesy word, but a strong culture coin, whereby what I mean by that is, you had the pit vipers ending up as a trait on NFTs. Oh,
yeah.
you've got them on now, man. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
well, I will say Carl is pre-Mog. Carl was mogging before Mog.
You were, bro, and I will give you credit on that. Absolutely, and I agree. And I've got a gutter cat that's got the Vipers on as well.
Yeah, that's the
So
one thing. I when Mog first came out, I was like, also shit meme coins weren't really popping at that point either. I mean,
yeah,
maybe you had like Pepe starting to get traction, but I was like, NFTs were still hot, and I saw Mog, and I was like, damn, that's like Carl's glasses. Like maybe I should get some of this coin, and then I never fucking did. I
I
kept
was the
watching it go
same.
up,
That
and I was
coin
like,
is
God
made
damn
for
it,
me, man.
I
Made
should
for
have been
me.
I should have been a mogger, man. I should have done it.
Same. I
But
faded that, and I suffered for it. And it was one of those coins that, um, looking back, was so obvious, and it
yeah,
just shows,
100%.
even when you're in it every day, like I am, to the people who feel bad on missing metas. I missed that one, bro.
Well, another thing you have to realize, and this is something I struggled with a lot, and I to this day still struggle with, is I struggle getting involved in coins where I don't love like the people that are necessarily leading it up.
Yeah, bro.
One of the
All the
biggest
message.
reasons, yeah, I mean, like Pepe, like I just like could not get over the fact that Paulie was like leading spaces every day, shouting at Pepe
Yeah.
holders, and like he was like one of the faces, and I was like, I hate this guy. I can't hold Pepe anymore.
Yeah,
And
he
then
sucks.
yeah. So
He
I struggle with that, but at the same token, like those are some of the people that you hate the most are bringing the most eyes to coins. So you have
yeah,
to try and find like the good, like find decent people in coins and hope that and rally with them, and try to
yeah.
ignore like the shit bags, because there's probably shit bags in most coins, like that are going to use their influence, try to pump and dump and
A lot of
uh,
people are riding the coat, or a lot of people ride the coattails of coins. So, e.g., Paulie with Pepe, I guess that was just, he saw it was the red hot item. It was getting eyes, and if he wanted to increase his follower base, saying good things or bad things about it got him views. And
yeah,
unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I've actually started to stream a lot more. Not to be a white knight here, that's not what I'm getting at. But what I noticed was, and was really starting to frustrate me, was I found that people with a voice were lifting up scammers,
yeah,
and they were doing interviews with people uh, that just extracted from the space, that offered fuck all value. And I was just like, man, why are we just, and I know why they do it. They do it because they get 1,000 people in a space, because people want to come and hear a fight.
yeah,
But I've just got over the Jerry Springer shit, bro. I'm like, nah, this is for children, man. Like, if people want to get involved in all that, like, I'm a bit too old for that stuff. And I'm
yeah,
here to, well, a couple of things. I'm too old. I've got a kid, so I've got enough, battles to have with children without jumping into spaces fighting with other kids. I really have to pick him up from primary school, so that's one reason I don't get involved. Two, what I learned very early in life, but I wish I'd learned it even earlier, was stress or emotions or spending time involved in that costs you money.
yeah,
Um, and
100%.
because I'm here predominantly to, well, I've changed now. I'm also here to hopefully educate and lead now, because I think it needs it. And I'll be happy. I guess I'll be happy to step away if it ever gets to the point where I'm not needed. It's not like maybe I do like talking to people. Maybe I guess I do, but I just noticed that too many people were getting the spotlight who I thought didn't deserve it, and I thought that builders like you, or people that had stuck in the space, weren't necessarily getting the conversations had, because it's not easy clickbait.
Yeah, yeah,
I could double my followers, I reckon, in 6 months if I just went full ham Jerry Springer, you know, interviewing, got the vape cabal, just went for the hot ticket items, right? Just
yeah,
found, the people saying the wrong things, the N word coin, get all that stuff up, I don't like this, and then they yell at me, like, but it's not gonna push the space forward. It's actually not going to be very good for me, and it's not going to help anyone learn, grow, or make any money. So I just don't want that. It probably will help me make money, because if I had spaces with 2,000 people and I'm having fights, I'll probably get sponsored, right? Sponsored, and all that. But man, I just find I think that's dirty money. And I think there's better ways to do it. So, hopefully, hopefully as we can have more and more conversations with good people, we can start. Hopefully, people in the space who get discouraged can start to see there are people out there that want the best for the space, and there's builders like you that won't just give up and won't just come in for a bag and then leave. Like we've seen some people that come in, e.g. Moonbirds or whatever, and come and get a fat bag, buy $300 mansion in the Hollywood Hills, and go on stress leave and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
and
No, the slow and steady mantra, man, is a real thing. It's like if you want to build something in this space, you're either going to just stick around and find other builders, and all of you support each other, and until like we start to get eyes back on us. And that's the best thing about probably the bear market, is like people have been able to see character, and like being able to see like who the real ones are, especially when AI and shit takes over. Like the value add of like actual good humans is going to be even harder to find. So we put but it is a lot of work. It's like to actually try to like have conversations like this, where you're like trying to chat through pitfalls and things that you've learned and stuff like that. It's not nearly as fun as like just making jokes about like what's hot at the moment, and like just sitting here talking about
a hot ticker, right? This is a hot
whatever
ticker. It's going to make
the
all of
hot
your
ticker is that in a week from now won't even be relevant anymore.
And I think that while that's has its place, and I think some hosts that do that, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we just have to up the ante of people coming in to guide, teach. And if there's we got almost 200 people listening to this now. If there's one person, man, that takes away one thing from this that helps them grow, make money, teach another person, well, then that's all I needed from this, right? I reckon that's great, because if you can teach people to fish, and this sounds really cheesy, but this whole thing just works a lot better. And the other thing is, for crypto to succeed, we need to keep people here.
Yeah, 100%.
And to keep people here, we need people to have we need people to keep their money. And we need people to succeed and get wins, and we need to even the playing field between those in the know and those not in the know, I think. So hopefully hopefully you and me can chat a lot more, because I think these conversations are important, and I think the more we do it, the more others will do it, and then I think more builders will come out of the woodwork and probably start talking, which I think is cool. And yeah, I just think educational spaces. I know Keegan does it really effectively with 10KTF and his teaching. He's always doing his spaces. I wanted to ask you before we go, because I didn't get to ask you. You effectively turned this interview around on me quite effectively. So that was quite good, man. I got to ask no questions from all the questions I had. So well done, JohnCarl. You did the old switcheroo on me, which I think is fucking pretty funny. And that's just actually I would say the skills of you being an interviewer. You actually are very good. And by the way, for anyone that was recorded, that chat with Figgy the other week, wasn't it?
Yeah, every show is recorded on Spaces.
Shout out to you and having that chat with Figgy. I thought that was a ripper, dude. Like, I think those spaces are so good, because having someone like Figgy up there, man, that guy is a mega brain in the space. And I mean, when you interviewed me up, thank you very much, and I was very stoked to be up there with you, but then also with Figgy and with Betty. Don't get me wrong, she's pushed the space forward nicely, but Figgy's on a, I very much look up to Figgy, because he's working in a stratosphere that I could never. And the advancements that I saw him pushing in the space, like the warm wallet and things like that, and just hearing him speak, I think we didn't hear him speak enough in the past, and maybe he doesn't want to speak too much as well, which I completely understand.
That was 100%. That was my big push to getting that show off the ground, is because he would be on these panels at some of these conferences that no one ever got to see.
Yeah, man, I never got to see them. I can't go to them.
A group of maybe 50, 100 people in an auditorium. I'm like, man, like, and then people were getting frustrated about 10KTF stuff. It's like, man, people just need to hear you, because if they could just hear like the way you think about the space
Yeah, man.
and get updates and see like what your brain is like they're gonna know like 10KTF's not going anywhere. Like you're obviously playing this long game. You're like thinking about stuff, and so I wanted other people to kind of see that, but also on top of that, like you said, the dude, like, I don't know how he fucking does it. He's got
Is he
he'll be
asleep?
talking. He
Like,
talks about things, and he has kids. He'll talk about things that I haven't ever heard of. I'm like, dude, you're like in meetings nonstop every day. How the fuck are you hearing about this thing on Barachain or like over like where, like, how do you do this?
it's moments like that when you speak to people like that you realize that there's just some people that operate on a frequency that I will never obtain. And I've got not many friends like that, but I've got a couple. One comes to mind. It's actually my brother-in-law, natural born entrepreneur who just, bro, he's never worked a day in his life for anyone else, and he had his own business at 14. He had a printing press at 14, man. So
Yeah.
that would tell you the kind of guy that he is. And
I
this
mean,
guy,
the thing that people don't know about Figgy is like Beeple worked for Figgy. I don't
did
know if you knew
he?
that. Yeah,
Nah, what?
like, and Figgy owns a very, very successful media company that fucking does, like the planning for
Like
like
Super Bowl type shit,
Super
right?
Bowls and like big, like, that's what like big celebrity concerts and all kinds of
Was it
crazy
like
shit. And
Ariana
no,
Grande was one of them? There was some big
yeah, no one would ever
names,
know it
dude.
because he's so humble. He doesn't talk about this
Nah,
shit.
never,
But
never. I had to look him up to
yeah,
find that. And I
yeah.
was
You
like,
have to like
holy, this
do
guy's
some
the man.
digging. Yeah, dude. And his company has like that. That's a big. There's like, I want to say, I don't, maybe over 50 people that work for Possible. Like, it's a big media company working in Hollywood. And no one fucking realizes that. Like,
He actually has a real company
yeah,
versus
he's got
a
like
company, but yeah.
big company. Well, and now he's obviously working with, he's like one of the top guys at Yuga, so he's doing all kinds of shit there. So I don't think he spends as much time with Possible stuff, but yeah, man, it's like people like that. You just like hear from them, and you're like, man, your like scope of knowledge about things is just like, you've been through the ringer too many times. It's like when you've had to go through the hassles of like the down, they're on a much broader scale because they've got a lot more people's lives in their hands. Like they're
Yeah.
building these companies and brands. Meanwhile, we're just like trying to make enough money for our own family, let alone
Yeah.
50 other people
But yeah,
underneath us.
the pressure on him, and that's why I could never do a job like his. I can't. My brain isn't able to break apart into that many fragments to look after
Yeah.
enough people. And I'm very good at hyper focusing on one thing, and I can do it very well. But as a project manager or anything like that, I fall apart. It's just, and I learned that the hard way through IRL work, where I'd end up in positions of management, and it just wasn't for me, because it was the people stuff I was good at, but the looking after all those pieces of people's lives was just like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, and the other thing behind it is people's emotional. Everyone's got a story, and
Yep.
it's, and you got 50 staff coming to you about all this stuff, and you're like, holy shit, I've got my own shit I'm going through with kids and stuff. And actually, didn't you just you had a child in the last
Yeah,
year?
well, I've got a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Two. Gee, time went fast. I remember when you were
The
having
2-year,
babies.
yeah, you probably remember a couple of years ago when my second daughter was born.
I remember you going, "Oh man, I need some time with my family." Before we go, actually, have you got any 10K TFL for us? Because I'm
Say that
still a big
again.
holder.
Oh, 10
I'm
KTF
broke.
Alpha? No, just that, the one thing now that 10 KTF is a branch off of Possible, which
Yes.
is the parent company, that does all this media stuff. One
Yeah.
thing I can say is that Figgy and all the people at Possible have worked with huge names. They're like very well connected, right? Like they like that brand. Like well, I mean, you saw it because 10KTF had partnerships with Gucci and shit that
Yeah.
no other
Yeah.
brand could have pulled off, right?
Crazy,
So
man.
that
That
yeah,
was cool.
you kind of get that idea of like the kinds of names that these people have connections with. So I think the one thing, the only alpha would be that if you like, I just don't think 10KTF is ever going to die. I think they've definitely downsized because the market's not super profitable. So like
Yeah.
that branch of Possible is not making money, but because Possible is a profitable company, like they're finally able to have the staff of 10KTF building and doing the things that they're working on, and they're just not going to give up. And I think that's enough alpha in itself. Like you want projects of like that. Who would have thought Artifact would be like go to zero, or I mean maybe not zero, but have the fucking Cloudflare turned off uh
Man,
after a
that's
couple years.
unreal, dude, and a lesson to all of us
Oh,
who
for sure.
with
How
NFTs to
I
understand that.
mean, that shit was a 12 ETH floor, 13 ETH floor back in the day. So,
That was pretty embarrassing, dude, for our space.
oh yeah. I
Like,
mean,
for all of us, not even the holders. I saw that and went, "Oh, man, that's not
oh,
cool,
it's
bro."
terrible. Yeah, but it's a good lesson of
Like, all
like
my
you
friends, if
have
they
to.
saw that, they'd be like, "Dude, fucking told you so." Like, and then I've got to try and defend the space. It's like,
No,
fuck.
for real.
I don't
It's
have
tough.
to defend it, but I feel like I don't know, I feel kind of not responsible for the space, but I defend it, Like,
Yeah.
I
We
do
have
because
to we have to back up the people that like ever since I saw Figgy, like I just got this feeling with how much effort they put into the 10KTF
yeah,
lore. And you're aware of this, but
yeah.
10KTF still
Best
has
story, man.
never yeah, it still has
Still
never
is the
been
best story.
like blown up. Maybe the most maybe like one ETH floor for some of the items when it was like all the other side hype was happening.
Yeah,
But it was never 10KTF. They purposefully never like overhyped. It was always kind of if you know, you know. And
that's right.
I always kind of love that because it's like when they're gonna let the product do the speaking for itself. And
Agreed.
the I do think right now they're working on creating a series. They're working on creating a pilot episode for something that could become a series of like the 10KTF and the lore of Wagmi San.
Right.
And they're wanting to build out the entire pilot episode, so that like the backwards approach is going to media companies like Netflix or Fox or any of these big providers, Amazon, and basically pitching them an idea and trying to get funding. But they 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 want to they're taking a backwards approach. Most places, if you do that kind of thing, they're gonna if they fund something, they're gonna want to keep like a huge they're going to give you like maybe 10-20%. They'll be like, we're taking 80% of this, you guys.
Mhm,
So what they're doing is they're trying to build this out on their own. They're building the pilot episode all on their personal funds, and then
mhm.
when they have a product, they're going to go and try and do the launch so that they can get like have an actual viable product that they can show and have a better chance of getting a good partner instead of getting raped by some sort of media deal. So that kind of stuff, when you only have 5-6 people working on it, takes a lot of time to build out a really good pilot episode. So that's one of the big things they're excited about. But
Okay,
man, I'll
that's
tell you
good.
that they have so much, like they already teased it. They had this racing game that's completely built out for the most part, but they shelved it because they just didn't want to launch it in kind of like keep trying to keep Battletown going, even though they didn't have
Yeah,
any source of funding. They were just going to
yeah.
drain the wall, like their pockets. And they're like, why don't we like shelf the things that we have built so that way when there's a day that like the attention comes back, they're going to
Then
just
they
have,
can drop it.
yeah, they're going to have an arsenal of shit that they can go to.
Okay, well,
I
that's
know they
some
have,
good alpha in itself there, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean 10KTF's not sometimes I look at some NFT projects, I'm like, man, the fact that 10KTF grailed is like under 0.05 ETH is ridiculous. It's just like that's you can get a grailed PFP for like 60, 70
Yeah, it's
bucks is
almost
like
worth
such
just
a great
grabbing one
entry.
just for a punt.
Yeah, man. Or you just buy, it's one of those projects you just buy a few when you have liquidity and you just
Just wait a year,
you
I reckon,
hold
wait a
on.
year or
Yeah,
2.
just hold on and enjoy the ride with the fam. I mean, I know you used to have a lot of items. You're such a good at flipping those, so you kind of realized when things weren't going well and got out smartly.
I still got a lot, bro. I've still got a lot of Battletown items. I
Do
because
you?
I thought we were gonna have another season, so
Yeah.
I
And that's
kept
the plan. They
I
definitely
kept all
want
of
to
mine. In fact, I
continue.
bought some. So I do have, like, put it this way: if they launch a mission tomorrow, man, I can full stack. I've still got my
Hell yeah,
ringer.
bro. See, that's the thing that's beautiful about this
I'm
time is
ready to
like,
go.
yeah, a lot of the community during the bear market, like there's some people that fell off or like that were quote unquote so loyal to 10KTF. And this thing I hated even during the hype of when 10KTF was getting attention. You see these people that come in, you're like, I've never fucking heard of this person, but now they're doing spaces every fucking day. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, well, now what you see is those people that were like that, and I won't say names, but I know you probably know some of them. They hopped on to the next hot thing, and then they hopped to the next hot thing, and they just like
and they're
they're
just
never
crazy
really
as shit, each
loyal.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, they're just trying to get followers, trying to get viewers. But when you find really good projects, like stick with it because a lot of times the community of those projects are the most badass because the builders are really dedicated. And yeah, I don't think they're going anywhere. But I also, for a long time, I tried to keep a horizon of like, man, like I had to get rid of like the idea of I'm going to be able to hopefully make money on this project
yes,
in a year or 3 months
same here. I've
because
just forgotten about it.
yeah, every time I did that I got fucked and then that's when it really fucked with my emotions because I mean I have a huge bag. I think at the very top my bag was probably close to 7 figures in 10 KTF and I've rode that thing all the way down. So I think I think the biggest lesson I took from that is one, don't like over leverage yourself in one thing if you believe in it. Cause I, to this day, I still believe in 10 KTF, but at the same time, like, the attention economy is real and there's no way like you can force that. You just have to keep building and never go away. And I know that they're never going to do that. That was part of the reason, and then when you're in a community that you really love like that was part of the reason my pitch to Figgy to do these spaces is like we've got to get the community like
That
rallying and just like coming together more because if
yeah,
we're in this for the long haul, let's hang out, let's chat about what's going
I
on in the
agree.
space.
Let's
And I
connect,
think
let's
that's been
learn, let's grow,
yes,
get to know each
100%.
other
They that
again.
way because the team when everyone's going into a Discord just being like, "What's happening? What's
Yeah,
why isn't it
it's
like
not good
demoralizes
optically,
the
is it?
team too?"
Yeah, I
And then the
bet.
team's like, "Why the fuck why are we still doing this? We're not making money." It's
Yeah.
like so
Yeah,
but
dude, I can only imagine what
that
Bam
was a
Bam and
lot of
shit
the
has to go through. Fuck
yeah,
that.
so part of the whole idea of Grail Chat was to like get some of that weight off of the team's back so they could focus on cooking what they need to cook and not be so pressured to like do a
I
post every Thursday
yeah,
that ends up not even being like not moving us forward at all just for the sake of doing every
just
Thursday.
optics, just
Yeah.
optics. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think I saw some communication, I think was it from Figgy or Bam Bam, who said that one of the issues was having such an awesome Thursday plan for us every Thursday, um, took away from the ability to actually build in the background because they were having to put so much resources during the week into creating this awesome Thursday that
Yeah.
we experienced.
Well,
And
that's
I'll
what
vouch for that. The Thursdays were amazing, dude. They were the best crypto times I've ever had.
yeah.
Where it
But they,
was
yeah, like you
Thursday.
said, even when they weren't really pushing the needle forward anymore, or they weren't really part of the like bigger storyline, Figgy was telling me that they would spend almost like 40% of resources just to brainstorm and come up with the next Thursday when it was just to do another Thursday and didn't really impact a real storyline. I was like, my God, like that's what a waste of resources. Like
Yeah,
if we took that 40% and they like are do like long-term building with that
much
time,
better.
much more impactful. And I was like, I was like, what you like, you know how many people would love to hear you chat. Like, let's just do let's just like have spaces and talk and hang out. So that's kind of how Grail Chat started. But it's also great because I had been out, I was doing 2 to 3 shows a week during like my heyday in
I
2021
was looking, yeah.
when Spaces first started. So it was good for me to get back in and start like in the chat with people too. And my favorite thing is like I love hosting. I love asking questions. I love learning from people smarter than me. And so my big struggle getting back into it was I just did not want to get on a Spaces just to get on a Spaces and not have a reason or
I
like
know, yeah, you want to go in with some grit or feel like they've got something to learn, like, oh, sorry,
yeah,
sorry, you've got something to teach.
100%.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go, Carl. I've got a meeting with someone, but I wanted to say before I ended, thanks for jumping on with me, and hopefully we can have these chats a lot more because I think these are important, especially in a just a relaxed, chilled way with us, without either one of us trying to sell anyone anything. Like, hopefully just
Well,
back
if you
and
gave me 5 minutes, I had a lot of things I wanted to talk about so I could sell you, I have a list of let me pull out this list of 5 projects I need to share.
yeah, yeah, starting from the top. But everyone who's listening, give John Carl a follow, and definitely check out his project, the Crazy Carls. They've got an Ethereum collection and a smaller Bitcoin collection. I like the Bitcoin one a lot.
Yeah.
Give and Baby Jesus, shout out to Baby Jesus. That's a coin that Carl took under his wing a couple of years ago, I think, which I still hold and never sold. So if you want a coin that probably you're not going to get dumped on too much, that's probably a pretty good buy. But brother,
Yeah,
I just want to say,
especially at these levels.
yeah, especially
Yeah,
at these levels, I just want to say
yeah,
thanks for giving me your time, man. And I would love to jump on you with again. And anytime you want to get me on the Grail Chat, man, give me a yell, and I'm more than happy to. Well, I'd love to, not just more than happy. I'd love to come on there and have a chat.
100%, man. Appreciate you hanging out. Thanks for everyone tuning in, and I'll be back. We'll have to chat again. Take
Thanks,
care.
legend. Thanks everyone for tuning in.